This episode is sponsored by Sourcing Playground. Sourcing Playground is an online platform making it easier for brands to connect with compliant, ethical, and sustainable manufacturers. Think Match.com, but for retail. You can post your project for free and let the suppliers come to you. On the platform, you can easily compare quotes and factory profiles to choose the right supplier for your brand. Sourcing Playground are offering a free upgrade to the Fashion Feed listeners, which means your project will only be viewed by the factories and hidden from public view. Go to www.sourcingplayground.com to check it out and mention the Fashion Feed in the chat box. Hello and welcome to episode 14 of the Fashion Feed podcast. I'm Elizabeth, your host. I'm a fashion brand consultant and I work with independent businesses with their design, trends, marketing, sourcing, manufacturing, costings. I just wanted to give a little intro after last week's episode, and thank you so much to everybody who downloaded it. It's very, very quickly becoming one of the most popular episodes that I've done, which is amazing, and I'm just so glad that you all enjoyed it. I had more shares than ever on Instagram of people screenshotting it and listening in and saying how much they enjoyed it, which just makes my heart explode. So yeah, thank you so much to everybody. It actually was a bit of a fluke episode and it was one of those things that obviously was meant to be. So yeah, huge thank you. This week I have a special guest who is Lucy Hitchock of Sassy Digital. And Sassy Digital is a marketing agency designed to be an extension of your team. And one of their strengths from the beginning has been fitting seamlessly into clients' businesses. Sassy Digital has been managing social media accounts, building brands and websites since 2014. And in that time, they've worked with plenty of talented people and extraordinary brands. Lucy has built the websites for some big players such as Sarah Ashcroft's SLA label and Stay Wild Swim, so has since accrued a number of up-and-coming fashion brands as clients. It's great having a big audience to sell to, but I wanted to speak to her about how to launch a fashion brand with a relatively small following. I went to meet Lucy at a co-working space where we recorded an episode for her podcast, followed by me interviewing her for the Fashion Feed, which was her first ever podcast interview as a guest. I'm sure you'll agree that she was a natural and gave away so much advice for new brands. In this episode, we discuss which social platforms should be your priority when launching, how to grow your audience on and offline, the importance of community when starting out with something new, how Facebook groups can help ease anxiety around business hurdles, which web platform is best for you as a fashion brand, and how to break the formatting on MailChimp and design emails that are on brand. If you're listening to this episode on Apple Podcast and enjoyed the episode, I'd be eternally grateful if you could leave a rating or review. It will take less than a minute and means more people can discover the interviews with inspiring guests in the fashion industry. I'd love to get to 50 reviews by the end of this year. You may already be subscribed to this podcast, and if so, thank you, thank you, thank you. It's totally free and just means it will automatically land into your podcast every fortnight. You can keep in touch with me and Lucy on Instagram. Screenshot your phone and tell us you're listening, and tag us on your Insta stories at Elizabeth Styles UK and at Sassy Digital. Thanks again for listening, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Let's go again.
Number two.
Round two.
Let's just pretend we didn't have that conversation.
So we've just recorded one podcast for Lucy's podcast, but now we're going to do the Fashion Feed. So welcome, Lucy.
Thanks for having me. This is my first podcast.
Is it really?
Well, not obviously my first one,
apart
but
from yours.
Yeah,
the one you've been
else.
interviewed. Oh,
yeah.
I feel very honoured. Thank you.
Cute.
So tell us a bit about you and who you are, what you do.
Okay, let's see. I do lots of different things.
Yes.
My main thing is I am the founder of Sassy Digital, which is a digital marketing, branding and website design agency, which I don't like to use that word.
How come?
For all businesses. Because I started my career by working in agencies. And when I left, I thought I am the anti-agency. Right. I didn't want to run my business like you run yours. I just felt that agency culture, firstly, working within an agency was just the worst thing. I mean, I had terrible experiences at both of the agencies that I worked for, and I just really didn't enjoy it. I made some great friends, but
yeah,
that was about it.
You kind of bond over how much you hate the job.
Ah, yes. Yes, I can relate to all the memes that make their way around the internet now.
At Fashion Assistant is quite funny. It's just
okay, great.
Being a dog's body.
I will add that to the list.
Yeah.
So yeah, agency was just not something I ever wanted to call myself, but I have to do it for SEO purposes because that is sadly what people search. So I actually found when I started that a lot of small businesses didn't know where to go for help for their social media or marketing. And that's basically how I started. And at the time, there wasn't a lot of people who were doing what I do now, whereas now there's, we have a lot of social media managers. A lot of more people are going freelance, and it's a lot more accessible to get that sort of help, which I think is amazing. I mean, the more help people can get, the better.
Yeah. Because like we said earlier, people don't buy what
exactly.
it is that you do. They're buying it because it's you and your take on it and the way you've done it. And
also you can't work with everyone. Like, can you imagine being the only person that possibly did something?
I know. It'd be stressful.
Yeah, it would be stressful, and you just wouldn't be able to do it. So yeah, I struggled with the fact that a lot of people, I'm a very honest person, I'm an open person, I wear my heart on my sleeve. I just really struggled with the fact that there wasn't a lot of honesty around people's marketing strategy. So it was like, you pay me X amount a month and this is what you'll get. But you're not actually making any promises. And to be honest, agencies don't actually, well, at the time it wasn't data led. So people didn't really care. All they cared about was the money. They didn't care. Agencies didn't care they were bringing the results, because what would happen? They come to the end of the contract. It would, the retainer would go up for pitch, and they might lose it. But in that meantime, they would have won so many other pitches.
Yeah.
It's actually all just about money, and no one really cared. People went to work, didn't care about the clients, and I just didn't agree with that at all, because I'm a people person, and I love to help other people succeed.
Yeah.
So that's basically why I started, and I started very small, working with I worked with a lady called Madeline Shaw, who many people know. She is a fantastic cook, nutritionist, yoga teacher, mother. Oh, do you?
Yes.
Which one do you have?
The glow one.
Get the Glow?
Yeah.
Or Ready Steady Glow? What colour is it? You don't
It's
know
got
what
like
colour it is?
a pink binding, I think.
A pink binding?
Yeah.
That's
so.
Ready Steady Glow.
Okay, that one.
Yeah, so I'm actually in that cookbook.
Are you?
Yeah, there's
oh my
photos
God.
of me in there.
I'm going to
have a flick through.
Yeah.
Yes, I helped a lot with that book. It was great. So I worked for her a couple of days a week, and then I went up to 3 days a week, then 4 days a week, which was by that point too much, because I had too many other clients just to do in one day. And so I decided at that point, I'd been working with her for 1.5 years, I think, to jump out of my little safety net.
Yeah.
And work on Sassy Digital full time. So by that point, I'd put off building a website, and I'd worked quite hard to get something up and running so that I could leave, and at least I had my own little space on the internet. And then, I started working with, family, friends to begin with, my hairdresser, various other different people. And then by that, actually weirdly, one of my biggest clients at that point came from my dog's Instagram.
Oh, really? That's amazing.
Yeah, so they were a health drink company, and the marketing manager followed my dog on Instagram, and for some reason managed to find my business page through that.
Yeah.
And so that was why I was able to leave my kind of little safety net and go and do my own thing, basically. But
that's incredible.
Yeah, I think you've just got to, utilise your dog's Instagram.
Yeah.
No, you've got to utilise people that you know, and all of that sort of stuff to help you get clients. So that's basically what I did.
Yeah, you never know who knows who, and
I know
what opportunities can come from
yeah
people.
So true. So now we don't just do social media management. We talked a little bit about this earlier, but I lost 2 of my biggest retainer clients in 1 month about 2 years ago, and I thought, God, what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
Like I've got someone working for me full time, and I can't really afford to pay them and do X, Y, and Z. So what we started doing was someone said, "Oh, I like your website. Can you just build mine?" I thought,
Okay.
okay, I'll give it a go. And oh my gosh, I can't even believe what I used to charge people to build their website. So I was like, I could just give it. It'll take me like a few hours to do that. Amazing. I'll just do it for like 300 quid. Very quickly realised that's not what people charge to build websites because of the amount.
It doesn't take a couple of hours.
It doesn't take a couple of hours. No.
It's like decorating. You go, oh, I'll give that a lick of paint, and 3 days later, you're still there.
Exactly. And I struggled a lot with pricing at that point. And then I very quickly learned that you can't live off building websites for £300.
Yeah.
And they take way longer than that to build. So anyway, we started building websites, started doing branding, and now I'm nearly 5 years down the line. And that is my little story.
That's great. And do you specialise in sort of like well-being or fashion or like female businesses or?
Weirdly, and I mean, great that you've got me on here. Weirdly, I have a lot of fashion clients, and that has only been a thing in the past year or so.
Yeah.
And I never really saw myself. Well, I did see myself working in fashion. When I was younger, I was desperate to be a journalist, and I thought, so my first ever job that I wanted to be a TV presenter for many years. And then people kept saying to me, you know, you're really good at writing. I started winning awards at school for my creative writing, you know, just in school awards, not anything fancy.
Still,
book voucher or two. A book voucher or two for Waterstones.
Do you remember those little libraries that used to come in like a caravan?
Yes.
To your school?
Yes. Literally.
You were like a baller in them.
I've got money to spend.
Yeah.
And so I started doing creative writing, and then my teacher was like, you know, you really should go and do English literature at uni. And I was thinking, oh God, I really don't like reading. I don't fancy that. And then I eventually settled on communication and media. But I wanted to be a fashion journalist, specifically at Vogue. And I thought Vogue is the place to be. I really would love to work there. And then I realised actually, I don't think I'd fit in there. And then I started.
Anyone fits in.
That's all right.
It's all a facade.
Yeah. I didn't think I had the fashion sense to work there, to be honest, but I love clothes.
Got a beautiful headband on today.
Oh, thanks. Thanks. And so, yeah, about a year ago, I ended up I replied to an influencer on Instagram who said they were looking for a graphic designer to do their logo. And so I do what I always do on influencers' DMs, and I go onto my Sassy digital account and I slide into their DMs with the hair flick emoji.
That's good.
And I do like maybe 5 of them, like
Yeah.
And I get the same reaction every time from the influencers going, oh my gosh, I've just had so many messages from weirdos, and I've just looked at your page, and I think you just would totally get where I'm coming from. So anyway, I ended up doing her branding, and then she went, can you build my website? I ended up building her website, and obviously my link is at the bottom of her website. So when her brand launched in June this year, I got a lot of hits to my website.
Nice.
So yeah, exactly. Yes. Got to get a little link in there, and she was also very happy to talk about me. So
who was it?
Sarah Ashcroft.
Oh yes.
And she's got her own fashion brand called SLA The Label. So if anyone owns SLA The Label, the SLA that is on the back of the tracksuit, that was my little brainchild.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, so now I wear those tracksuits around, and people are like, oh, sorry, what? Did you do their branding? I'm like, yeah, well, I've got to rep the brand, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it kind of started from there. One of my best friends also runs a sustainable swimwear brand called Stay Wild Swim. So I did their branding as well, did their website. And actually, Stay Wild was pre-Sarah Ashcroft. So I guess I kind of started with Stay Wild, then did that.
Yeah.
And I've worked with a lot of other kind of fashion-y sort of brands since then. Another one called Trend Studio, various other different ones I can't remember off the top of my head because there's a few things going on, but yeah.
Maybe
so
if you go to your website we can have a look.
Exactly. Yeah. Sorry, this was a really long-winded way of saying yes, fashion.
So if we do have like a lot of fashion brands listening and they're just starting out, and it can sometimes feel a little bit overwhelming about where to start.
Yeah.
And they're thinking, or all they hear online is build a community ready for you to sell.
Yeah.
And you might have a brand and you've got 100 followers, 80 followers, 100, like you're around that mark. What would you suggest? Like, where would you suggest they start? Is it spend your money on your website? Is it
well, if you're a
Instagram?
fashion brand, you will need a website, and a lot of the shift we're seeing at the moment, right, is that where people traditionally would try and get their fashion brands stocked in a store, it's actually, I mean, from my clients' experience, it's actually better to sell your product through your website because you make the most money through doing that.
Yeah.
And actually having your brand stocked in a store is more of a marketing ploy nowadays. Sad that the high streets kind of is going like that, but
no, you're right,
no one likes to go and shop on the high street anymore. People just don't like to do that. So having your own website where you sell, exclusively your stuff, if you can get it right, can be very beneficial to you making the most kind of profit possible. Now getting stocked in places like ASOS and stuff, I know that that's very good for marketing as well, but a lot of people tend to do that in the early days and then think eventually, actually, you know what, we're going to take it all off there, we're not doing wholesale anymore, we're going to sell it, now we've got a name for ourselves. So there's a few ways to go about it. So in terms of your social media, well, firstly, you'll need a website because you need to sell your stuff.
Yeah, and it's good to direct people away from your Instagram.
Exactly.
Like, your Instagram is not your business.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's true. Although a lot of people do sell directly through Instagram, and I've never quite got that. I've seen a lot of people who are like DM for prices, and I'm like, that's a bit dodgy. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I know. I think it's fine, but long term, you want to be having somewhere to direct people to build like trust within your brand as well.
Yeah, and also it's that, and I know it's almost like an addictive thing, but this instant gratification that you get when you see a top on Instagram, you think, I'm going on holiday next week, I need that white top.
Yeah.
Amazing, put it in my basket, done. You can do that in your own time. You don't want to be DMing people going,
waiting for a reply.
Hi, how much is this? How do I pay you? Here's my address, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You don't want to do any of that. You don't want to talk to anyone. I mean, sad as it is, we don't like talking to people on the phone anymore. What makes you think that we want to slide into someone's DM and ask how much a top is? You just want to go online, buy it, done.
Yeah.
I mean, that's actually really great because you can now connect your Shopify store to Instagram so people can actually see, how much stuff costs and then directly go off Instagram onto your website. So that's just one of the tools that is now available to us. But in terms of growing that following on Instagram or any other social media platform, it's really important to a few things. Firstly, influencers is a big thing, because I think as humans we are less kind of susceptible to Instagram and Facebook ads these days, and to see an ad you kind of think, oh, that's really annoying, like I don't want to look at that. Whereas when an influencer's posting it, it doesn't seem like an advert because they are posting it, recommending it, and even if you paid them to post about it, it doesn't always feel like an advert. So I think sometimes we think, oh, I don't have the budget to spend on influencers, but maybe you do have the budget to spend on Facebook ads. So say, for example, you're going to spend £300 on Facebook ads one month. Maybe try doing something like paying an influencer who has an engaged following. Try paying them £300, or however much they charge. I mean, take a call on it, and make sure you thoroughly research influencers because there is a lot of dodgy activity happening out there.
And would you say it's better to work with fewer influencers over a longer space of time rather than lots of different ones that might just post about you once and then not hear from them again?
I think it's quality versus quantity for sure. And actually, Sarah, who I work with, she came on my podcast and said that basically a lot of the time posts are paid, but she said with up and coming brands, if she can resonate and she likes their products, then quite often she will take products from them and post about it, because with influencers, if every single post is an ad, And when you're researching influencers, make sure you look through that, because if every single post is an ad, then actually people become aware of that and they kind of turn off and think, well, they've just been paid to say that, so why would I shop from them? And, you know, obviously why have they become a style influencer in the first place is because people like their fashion sense. So I think working with influencers that have more quality content versus working with loads and loads of small ones, or perhaps loads of influencers just for one product launch, might be more beneficial in the long run.
Yeah, because I've worked with a girl called Amy Fuchsia, and I feel like lots of people at the moment are like saying, oh, influence marketing doesn't work, I tried it once and it didn't work and I'm never going to do it again. And there's so many different factors to why it might not have worked. Like you might not have picked the right person, they might have posted it at a really rubbish time, they might not have actually explained that much about your brand, because unless the product is like incredible for that one specific person that's seen it, it's actually more interesting almost to say, like, say if Sarah or Amy were to post about a jumper, it's like, this is this brand, this is where it was made, this is what the background of the brand and how it started, and sharing a little bit about the brand as well as the product itself is maybe a little bit more engaging.
I think also
like his picture.
Also thinking about influencers posting on their feed versus posting on their story. You might not get someone posting on their feed, but actually Instagram feed posts aren't doing as well, and they don't get as many views as stories get. So
and you can have the swipe up on the story.
Exactly. So I think thinking about all of those sorts of things, where your content's going to be placed, what time of day it goes out. Stories doesn't matter what time of day it goes out, because people can watch it for 24 hours. Whereas on the feed, it doesn't always get seen if it's posted at a weird time of day. Obviously you'll get tagged, but you know, you can't do the swipe up, they can't link to it. All of those sorts of things.
And understanding why you want to work with influencers as well, especially at the beginning. Like, it's brilliant for sales, but actually maybe to start with it might just be about brand awareness, and being okay with being a little bit patient, rather than saying, oh, I got this post and it didn't get me any sales. And that can be frustrating, but sometimes it might just be brand awareness.
Also, tips for working with influencers, because I think a lot of people can get it wrong when approaching. Do not ever message people and say, dear blogger, or dear so-and-so, or even worse, like copy and pasting from a previous message you've sent and put a different name. Saying, dear so-and-so, this is our brand, we'd like to send you a product. Like, can you get any more generic than that? Be a little bit more personable, because would you want to get a random message that's not related to you really at all? And like, would you reply to it? Saying something like, hi Lucy, really your holiday to LA looked really lovely, like I loved all the outfits that you wore, or where would you recommend was the best place for brunch? I would really love to go. Oh, by the way, this is what we do and we really think you'd be suited to it. Here's a link. Let us know if you want any products. That would be great. And then
like your next trip away or something.
Exactly. Like, and I wouldn't say to begin with as well, I would never go, this is what we're expecting and this is what you can have in return. Wait for the reply, and then you can say, just so you know, we're an up and coming business, we're really small, any support you can give us will be hugely appreciated. And we've found through using that tactics for our clients and suggesting to other people to use those tactics that it works way more often than some generic message that you've just sent out.
Copy
because
and pasted.
No one cares about generic messages.
So we've got the influencers is one part, and what kind of content? So you've just launched your Instagram, you might have like 2 or 3 pictures. What kind of content should you be posting at the very beginning to build up that following?
I think it's really good to post about your story. And people often think, you know, when do I start posting? Do I start posting when my product launches?
I know, and I'm like, what am I going to post if I don't have product? And there's so much more you can do.
Yeah, so a lot of fashion brands that we've worked with have started from like the production process, and actually Stay Wild, although I didn't work with them on their social media, they very cleverly, and this is a great example, they very cleverly from the beginning said, we're launching a business in a few months' time. We want to start this now because we want our audience to shape the way that our clothing looks so they know that they've got it right. And saying, you know, would you prefer this colour swimsuit or this colour swimsuit? You know, vote on polls and stories now, because we're making those design decisions and we want to include you, our audience, our ideal customer, in that decision process. So I think there's so much more you can post. A lot of people tend to post their story. I think it's really nice sometimes to give a little bit of background on who you are and why you started, if there is a reason. So, you know, for ethical and sustainable fashion brands, that's a very important part of your brand identity, is why you started. Facts about, I don't know, fast fashion and, you know, the conditions of factories that are used in kind of sweatshops, if we can still use that word, but versus getting your products made in London, where actually the price might be higher, but you know that the staff are getting treated well, or making sure that you're finding factories that have there's a lot of, I think it's called the fashion revolution. You'll find a lot of pictures now of people who work in factories holding up signs that say I made your clothes, and a lot of brands post those on their Instagram feed, because I think that's actually really cool to see who made your clothes. So points of difference like that. I think it's more difficult for fast fashion brands to build that sort of identity on social media if you don't have a bigger cause. Because
it's being a part of something bigger, isn't it?
It's about being part of something bigger and not just posting an inspirational quote as a caption. I mean, it works for some people, but look, you've got to have a following before you can start doing that. And how do you get a following?
And also like mood boards as inspiration as well, to show the whole process of like people don't just want to see the perfect end garment, and making the most of the fact of, in human nature, people are very nosy and they want to see the whole thing. And
they are massively nosy.
There's those programs like Inside the Factory, behind the scenes at Cadbury's.
I love Inside the Factory.
Same.
Greg Wallace.
Even if it is like baked beans or something, you think it's not, and then you think, how are they going to fill a whole hour about baked beans? And they do, because there's so much more behind it. And you think, okay, well, if that's for a tin of baked beans, how much content must you have behind the scenes of making a product, sourcing the fabric, going out to see people, meeting influencers? You know, I'm thinking of working with this person. Tell me who you work with, or tell me who you're inspired by, and then go and work with those people. It makes more sense.
Exactly. So one of our clients is actually, they make bespoke formal wear for like clubs and universities and school uniform. And I said to them, why have you not got any pictures of the stuff being made in the factory? Because it's bespoke. Like if I was ordering a blazer, hell yeah, I'd want to see that being made. Like that would get me like excited. Like you're saying, I don't know how long it takes to get delivered, but you know, if the turnaround time wasn't that quick, it's like that would be really cool if I could actually just see that on your social media, and that would give people more of a reason to follow. And not even that, I think a lot of fashion brands tend to do pre-order now, so that they can kind of get the cash flow in to actually, you know, do the next run. Less waste, next run, and limited stock runs as well. So if you are doing that, people that have pre-ordered, get them excited by showing them the product being made, because they helped that to happen. And
then I think also people say, oh, I'm not getting that much engagement, or nobody's following me. I'm like, are you engaging with anyone, and are you following anyone? Because the answer usually is no. And I just think, how can you expect to get so much back when you're not prepared to give anything?
I think one of my biggest, the most advice I can give for this actually is, don't just do it online. Do it offline as well. You can't just sit behind a computer screen and expect magic to happen, because it just won't. You've got to go out there, tell people about your brand, get involved with events,
and literally tell anybody that you come into contact with. Because like we said earlier,
be proud and loud.
That your business kicked off because of your dog's Instagram.
But
then you really don't know where opportunities are going to come from. So I went to a marketing event at the British Library, and you look around and you think these people aren't in fashion. And like I know that sounds really awful, but there was like an old woman and this guy who was like a taxi driver and a mortgage advisor, and I was like, but then you don't know who they're married to or what their children do. Or
I
who
once
their
got into a
do.
taxi. This is seeing as you mentioned taxi driver. I once got into a taxi, and I started chatting. Said I run my own business doing social media. He went, "Oh, I don't know a lot about social media, but my daughter and her husband both have Instagram accounts as like." Mum and dad of like 4 triplets or something. Turned out combined they had something like 500,000 followers.
Oh my god.
And then he obviously was like, oh, well, I'll have to go and tell them about you. Do you know what I mean? It's just random.
And leave your card. And like, again, business cards, people think, oh, I don't need them anymore, but just take them everywhere with you, because I think the amount of times where I've said, oh, I'll follow you on Instagram, but then you get home and because it's not in order of who you followed most recently, you can't find them. So then you think, it's so annoying. So yeah, get business cards made and take them everywhere and tell everybody what you're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also something that I think this is going to sound really weird. So it depends what you do, obviously. But one of my clients is trying to target people locally, and she's printed off these business cards, and she's going to go and leave them in so it's for children's wear. So a lot more specific, I suppose, than kind of adult clothes, but to kind of spread the word in the first instance, she's going to go and leave them around in kind of like play groups, soft play, all of those sorts of things. So I think you sometimes to get the word out there, exactly, think outside the box, think where your ideal audience is hanging out online, but also offline. Yeah,
and jumping onto the back of other people's communities, that was something that I wrote down really early on. And I know we've spoke a lot about Facebook groups earlier, but they're ready-made communities to tap into. So can you collaborate with somebody? Can you put flyers in other people's mailing bags? Can you, I don't know, do an IGTV with somebody that's got a slightly bigger following than you? And I think collaborations with people who are sort of 2 or 3 steps ahead of you is another way to
utilize your contacts. And also cross promotion is like a massive thing. So you know, getting someone on your podcast, for example, that's cross promotion. Obviously when this comes out, I will talk about it on my Instagram, and I have fashion clients following me. So if you see how that works for you, Elizabeth, obviously they'll go, oh, who's Elizabeth Stark? She's in fashion. I'm going to go and have a look at that. Yeah.
And then for you, hopefully I'll have fashion clients that need a website
exactly.
built.
So it kind of works vice versa. And I think cross-promotion to begin with, I mean, it's a very simple idea. It's influencers. Influencers are cross-promoting your brand. But at the same time, it doesn't just have to be that. It can be your friends and family posting about your new fashion brand on their Instagram page, saying go and follow. Like if their followers like your clothes, obviously they're gonna go along and follow. Collaborating with other businesses that perhaps do something similar. Can you team up for a giveaway? All of those sorts of things will get your brand out there.
Onto other people's audiences that are already there.
Exactly, because they already have your ideal customer following them. Don't just jump in though with the big guns. Don't go to don't go to someone that's got 1 million followers and be like, should we do a giveaway together? Because you know, either they won't reply or they'll just be like, why would I do a giveaway with you when you've got 75 followers? That sort of thing.
Yeah, that's
harsh
why
it's
truth. Like 2 to 5 steps ahead of you rather than like 1 million steps ahead of you. Yeah. So with Instagram, I think that's like a lot of tips there. Let's move on to websites. Where do you start? Obviously, we want to start working on a platform that's already built. Like, you do not need to build a platform or a website from scratch. Use a template that's already there.
You don't need to build a website from scratch. And actually, most startup brands can't afford to do that, because if you do a bespoke website, you're going to be looking at
tens of thousands.
Not always, but at least, I would say at least 4,000. And that's just so unnecessary to begin with, unless you need bespoke functionality for something like, I'm thinking of one specific, but actually I can't give that example. Like a subscription box, and you want to fill your subscription box up with different kinds of beauty things. Like, how is that selector tool going to work? That's the type of thing that needs bespoke building. But actually most people who start with a bespoke website have secured some sort of funding already for their business, so they can actually afford to do that. Whereas if you're starting from scratch, actually it is possible to build a website yourself. And I say this to everyone who comes to us for a website. I'm like, just so you know, you could do this yourself. Or it won't look as nice. But it's possible. You can do it. And you can use Squarespace. I personally haven't ever used Wix, but I know a lot of people use it.
I know. I've heard some really bad things about Wix, about like it's very cheap, it's very easy, it's very templated, but it's quite slow as well. And obviously speed equals conversion. So
I mean, I'm just not a fan.
Yeah.
I tried it once and I never went back.
Yeah, I would say the same. If you can, you're going to end up moving off of it at some point anyway. So it might be better just to skip that step. So if you're looking to do a transactional website.
Exactly. Yeah. So Squarespace is great. It looks nice. The only thing is it's kind of difficult to use if you don't know what you're doing. It's it's drag and drop, but only within the confines of the template, basically. And there's lots of quirks, you know, to get a banner. Do you upload the picture to the page, or do you upload it to the media gallery of the page, which if you don't know what I'm talking about, then you'll have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about. But if you have Squarespace, then you might know.
The good thing with Squarespace is that they do have a video for everything.
Oh, they do. I mean, their library is extensive, which is fab. The only thing is that I will say is one of our clients we built on Squarespace to begin with, and actually it became apparent that it is limited. It's not appropriate in the long run. So for example, the emails that it sends out to confirm an order, you have to customize those, otherwise it is very basic.
It's like a Word document.
And you can tell that it's done through Squarespace. There's not really any apps. Well, there's not any apps. You can kind of custom code it if you know how to do that. But there's not, within the template, there's not that much kind of chopping and changing, and you can't always make things look the way that you want them to. So we always say to people who are doing like service-based businesses, Squarespace is ideal because it's easy to use, it looks nice, and you can pretty much do whatever you need to do on it. But for e-commerce, Shopify is, I mean, if you haven't heard of Shopify, then
and it's not Spotify.
Not Spotify.
I always call it Spotify.
It's like the most powerful e-commerce tool for not just small businesses. A lot of massive mega businesses use Shopify.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I always say, if it's good enough for Kylie, then it's good enough for you.
It is. So Shopify is the one, and you can make your confirmation emails look really quite lovely by spending 50 quid on an app. You can also track your inventory much easier. You can add apps for like packing labels, and actually if you grow your business to a size where you need to go to a logistics company, if you told them that you had a Squarespace website, they would laugh you out the room, because they need an API to basically track what orders are coming in and be able to send them out.
If you do pop-ups, it's quite good as well, isn't it? Because you can add add a shop within Shopify to say that, like, to connect your stock. So if you sell something in the pop-up, it takes it off your inventory online. And
the only thing with Shopify is that there's a lot of stuff on there that actually you can't edit within the editor.
Right.
So when you're building it yourself, you might think, how do I remove powered by Shopify from the footer? Well, you've got to go into the code to do that. You open up the code and you're thinking, what does .liquid mean? What does .sections mean? And you're kind of looking at like, well, where the hell am I going to find that? Actually, you'll find it in the footer, but the .footer theme. But if you don't know how to do that, don't go and edit your code, because you're going to mess stuff up. It's one of those things that you might actually need to get someone who knows how to code to go in and just tweak the final bit. So for example, someone we're working with at the moment is launching a hair extensions range, and to begin with they were going to build it themselves, and they thought, actually no, we'll get someone else to do it. So they got a quote from me, then said to me, we're actually going to go with someone else because of their expertise in Shopify, and the price point was lower than yours. Now I'm like, okay, that's fine. And they actually came back to me and said, we're actually going to have to eat our words because we don't like it. We really need your help. So actually I edited what they did, but because they hadn't coded anything, I don't personally code it. Someone who works for me does that. But because it wasn't able to be coded in the first place, they weren't able to get the exact results that they wanted. So sometimes you do need to spend a little bit of money finding someone that can actually do that for you and help you make it exactly how you want it. Most of the time you can get pretty much there, but look, if you're not a web designer and you're not thinking about user experience, sometimes it's better to get someone to have a once over and see that it's actually
because you might make it look amazing. I remember when we started, we wanted like you typed in the domain name and we wanted this video to pop up of like the campaign, but then you'd have to click through the video to get onto the website, and then you'd have to find the new in, and there's like that theory, isn't there, 3 clicks to the buy, and if you've got to click sort of 10 times before you can even add it to your basket.
On a website,
it might look amazing, but it will annoy your customer.
Exactly. You want to send people to check out as soon as you can, pretty much. So having a banner, great, show off your product, but the next thing you need is like featured products or featured product that people can add to their basket or quick shop straight away. Yeah.
And what about a blog? Is that necessary when you're starting out? Like, what is the purpose of a blog in this day and age?
I mean, do we ever go onto people's website and read their blog? No. But if you have a blog, it will direct more traffic to your website through people searching stuff on Google. So basically it makes your website more SEO friendly. So it's more likely to get... In fact, actually, a lot of people, when I say SEO, they go, SE what? And I'm like, how do you not know what that is? So SEO is search engine optimization. So you're basically optimizing your website to come up
in a search engine,
but as far up on Google as you possibly can. Or if you use other search engines, they are available also. And so the point of a blog is to make your website more friendly on search engines. So for example, another swimwear brand that we work with, we did a post on how to wash your swimwear, because that would be something that people Google. So my top advice with blogs would be, you want to get people to your website, don't write a blog that's like a super specific name to your business, like how you might want to share things like how we launched our new collection, because I think as part of the journey,
swimwear brand.
But, exactly. Think about how you can change the names for what people would actually search, because that's what's more likely to get hits to your website, and you'll know when you've hit the sweet spot as well, because you'll write a post that's titled something that people search and you will get thousands of hits to it, because Google will just pick it up. So blogs are necessary. There's just a few things as well with SEO that you need to do in a blog, and you can find that out with a quick search if you just search best practice for SEO and blogs. It will come up. There's a really great tool for WordPress called Yoast. A lot of people don't use WordPress anymore because you basically have to, it's what custom websites are built on, but they've got an SEO tool within there that tells you exactly what you need to do to make it's like a traffic light system, and it tells you what you need to do to get the green light on all of these different things, and one of them is name your blog post what you're going to name it, and within the first paragraph repeat the name of the blog post. So you might say like 5 tips for
washing your swimwear.
Again, 5 tips for washing your swimwear. And then you'll write your little intro going, a lot of people think you can stick your swimwear in the washing machine, but actually, did you know our special fabric is made out of plastic? So if you put it on a hot wash, it's going to melt. So here's 5 tips for washing your swimwear. And then start your blog post, and then make sure that you're utilizing your headers. So you'll have a header 1, header 2, header 3. Your header 1 is reserved for your blog post title, which will, sorry if this is really technical.
No,
we'll
it's
do it
useful.
automatically. And then your header 2s are reserved for like your points 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then your body copy obviously is anything below each of those headings.
So Google picks up headings.
Google picks up all of those things. So if you're not formatting your post correctly, then you're lowering your chances of being seen.
Right. I need to go and put some headings in my blogs.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
And the other thing is also, just on top of that, with images, you need to make sure that when you upload images to your website, make sure that you name the file.
Yeah.
And that you, once you've uploaded them, it will say the file name and it will say alt text. And alt text is the thing that Google reads. So
because Google's kind of blind.
It is.
Yeah.
It's
like,
all about
doesn't see
accessibility.
anything, it can only read. Is that?
It can.
Yeah.
So when I worked at agencies, basically, because a lot of the websites that we built were for US customers as well, US has a lot stricter laws on accessibility on the internet. So your website has to be compliant with their, I don't know what it's called, but their kind of accessibility bill, which involves basically naming all your photos with alt text. So if you've got a picture of a really nice dress. God, I'm really bad at examples here. A really nice dress, you would name it like blonde girl wearing pink dress with leather belt or something. And that's normally the way that you would write your alt text, rather than going pink dress, because you might have 10 pink dresses. So that's how you've got to name your alt text. But Google will read that basically. So actually it does matter what your alt text is, as long as it's SEO friendly. But also Google reads it and picks it up. So
I think some people think there's so much to do. So I've got my Instagram, my mailing list, my website, this. But actually it's trying to get a bird's eye view of it all working together, rather than seeing them as individual units, and having consistency across it. So if you have an Instagram feed, make your website look like your Instagram feed, and have the content, almost narrow down your content to 5 things that you only ever want to talk about, and then talk around those topics consistently. I agree.
The other thing I was going to say is, if you're going to do all of those things, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, website,
have the same
mailing
handle.
list. Oh God, yeah, we'll have the same handle. First of all, please make a social media manager's life more easy. The other thing I was going to say is, if you're going to do all of those things, do them all. If you're not going to do them, blog as well, that included, don't update your blog 6 months ago. Like, no, that's really sloppy and it's not professional and it doesn't look good.
Just don't do it at all. You're not going to do
if you're not going to do it, just don't do it at all.
Yeah, because especially if somebody goes onto your blog, they might see a dress, add it to the basket. Before they go on it, they'll go, oh, I'll just have a look at what else they've got to say. And they go, oh, that was updated 6 months ago. My thought would be, how long has that dress been sat in that warehouse? Is it dusty? Is it old? Is it a bit old-fashioned now if she's not looked at this range for 6 months?
Exactly.
But the range might have dropped 2 weeks ago, but they're the questions that will go through my head.
Exactly. And I think it's important. I mean, I guess making a plan for all of these different channels. Firstly, decide what you're going to do and stick to it. If you're not going to do Twitter, don't just leave it there, just delete it. Yeah. If you're going to do a newsletter and you've said you're going to do it every month, send it. But at the beginning of the month, make sure that if you know that you're going to forget, or you're going to put it to the bottom of your to-do list, set aside a day. I think Fridays are a good day to do this, because no one really sends emails on a Friday. Fridays are a great day to do this. Write your blog post for the month, or write 2 blog posts for the month. Write your newsletter for the month. You don't have to be that consistent with your newsletter, especially when you're doing a fashion brand. But the great thing about newsletters is you could pretty much take content that you've posted on Instagram and repurpose it for a newsletter.
So like your best performing post that week or that month.
Exactly.
Just expand on it.
Yeah, like weekly style, or I don't know, dress of the month. And you could even, just to push sales on your newsletter and get to push sign up, you could even say people who sign up this month will get free shipping. And then you send an email out at the end of the month with a free shipping code.
And signing up to other people's newsletters as well to get ideas.
Oh yeah, massively.
Yeah, like Reformation, I always like theirs.
Oh, I don't get their newsletters.
Yeah, it's funny.
Is it?
Yeah, there's not that many words in it. It's very image heavy, but it's really, it makes me laugh, but from very few words. Like, it's very clever. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sign up to
I'm gonna have a look at that.
Yeah.
I think also the big thing with newsletters is you need to see what people put in their subject line, because clickbait. Like, do you open a newsletter that's got a rubbish subject? Probably not. So just making sure.
Look what's inside. I don't know. It's like, don't try and trick people.
I always think M&S have great subject lines.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, they sent me one yesterday that said top of the tops, and I was like, did I read that right? Top of the pops or pop of the shops?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, top of the tops.
Yeah. Maybe I'll sign up to them as well.
Yeah, also don't put something, you just want to put something that someone will open. It doesn't have to have like all the content that's in there. It just has to have something catchy that catches people's eyes. So say, for example, with Stay Wild, we did one that said, if you watch one thing today, if you watch one thing this month, it has to be this. And then it was actually a video of Greta Thunberg, is that her name?
Oh yeah.
Doing her speech to the UN. So I mean, it's brand related, but also there was products in there and it got people to watch it. So
yeah,
just think about the subject line. It's
important. And there's, again, we were talking about templates earlier, but there's templates online. If you're completely stuck, it will be like blank, blank, and you can kind of fill it in to give you a little bit of inspiration. Like, try and mix it up, but if you put like blog topic headlines or email newsletter headlines, it might just give you a little spark of something to go from there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Also, if you're rubbish at designing your newsletters, there's ways of getting around it. So look at other people's newsletters and see what they do, because what you can do is place images in that you've designed up on like Photoshop or Canva and make them look a bit nicer. You're not just confined by what MailChimp says that you can add, like product, using their fonts. It's like, well, actually, those aren't your brand fonts, so you shouldn't be using them.
Yeah.
And I think you'll find if you log into a lot of people's emails and like, if you click on the image and drag it while you're holding the mouse down, you'll be able to see if they've coded it or used, like, created the image themselves in Photoshop. Most of the time it's in Photoshop.
Okay. So that's interesting. So almost making like putting your newsletter in Photoshop and uploading it onto MailChimp.
Yes.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that tip.
And if you're not very good at that, then I have something coming very soon. But that's all I can say.
Yeah, maybe put it in your next newsletter.
I will put it in my next newsletter.
Yeah, with a clickbait title.
I will.
And thank you. That's been so helpful. I know we both get asked a lot about how to launch a fashion brand when you have a small following. So I'm hoping those tips will be super useful to people.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. Where can people find you?
You can find Sassy Digital on Instagram at Sassy Digital. You can find us at sassydigital.co.uk, and you can find me at LucyHitchcock _ if you want to follow me. It's not just me with pictures of my dog. It's actually useful business tips, I hope.
Yeah.
Just to help people kind of live their best career. That's what I'm passionate about.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome.